Hi, and welcome to College Planning Untangled, where we help families preparing for college simplify their lives by tackling, all of the topics that will kind of mess them up. And today we're going
Absolutely.
to be today we're talking about the enhanced ACT changes and what you should expect. I'm Kristin Clark. I'm a career exploration coach for 16 to 26-year-olds, and I'm here with Bobby Hood, our local ACT and SAT guru. Bobby, what's life thrown at you this week?
Oh man, so we've got the ACT coming up next Saturday, so in 10 days. So I've had my students who've been preparing all summer, getting ready for that September ACT, and then you've got more ACTs coming up, in the fall. And so the big thing is, yeah, this new enhanced ACT. So I thought we'd revisit it really quickly today. So they started the enhanced ACT in June, and in June and July, students had the option of choosing which one they were going to take. And then starting next Saturday, if you take the ACT, you're now taking the new enhanced ACT.
And as a reminder, when SAT did this, it was a little bit of a
Yeah, it was a little,
right?
yeah, it was a little strange because the SAT, you had to do it digitally and you have to do it through their app that you had to download, all sorts of strange things. And we haven't heard any real problems like that with the ACT. So far it seems to be a less confusing rollout. So let's just look really quickly at so here's what ACT says, right? Similar to the SAT, it's now just a 2 hour or a little bit, 2 hour and 15-minute test like the SAT is. So now they both take the same amount of time.
And let's talk about that just for a second, Bobby. With all the clients that I see,
Mhm.
this is a huge improvement, that
It
is
re-
reduced amount of time.
it really is. I mean, it was a bad situation for SAT to be 2 hours and ACT to be 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
That really made it hard for students to be willing to take the ACT. So
Yep.
now students will be a lot more likely to be willing to choose the ACT. And the way they did that is basically, see, with the SAT, it was a complete redesign. The test is very different than it was before. The ACT, what they did is they just took existing tests and made 4 new practice tests by deleting 25 of the 75 English questions. So now it's 50 questions. They deleted 15 math questions. So now it's 45 math questions instead of 60. They deleted 4 reading questions. So it's 36 questions instead of 40. And they made the science section optional so that you still probably should take it, but it no longer counts toward your composite score or your super score. So your super score is now the average of 3 things: English, reading, and math. And we need to talk about that a little more in a second. But they also added more time per question. So they reduced the number of questions, but added more time, but not the same amount of time. So that makes it only two hours now. If you don't take science, it's 2 hours, right? If you take science, it's 2 hours and 35 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
the time pressure was always a tough gig.
That's the thing. The whole difference between the ACT and SAT has always been that the SAT was so hard and so dense, but at least it wasn't time pressured. And that's why students kind of liked it. The ACT was a much easier test, but was extremely time pressured. And now it's not nearly as time pressured. So in my mind, it makes ACT the best test for pretty much everybody. That's my opinion. There are other tutors that feel differently, but I think all students should consider the ACT at this point because of that, right? So the other things that are interesting, like it mentions here on the screen, they changed the number of answer choices in math from 5 to 4. That makes it easier,
Yep,
right?
for sure.
Just less answers to look through and all that. And the other thing that's very interesting, and so I'm dealing with this right now with my students, is so you've always had like a super score that ACT will report. So ACT reports to colleges, here's each of your test scores, but here's your super score, which is all your best scores combined into one score, right? So the super score, some colleges look at the super score, some don't. But when you take your first enhanced ACT, so students who take it 10 days from now, your super score that was there disappears, and you get a new super score that is now the average of English, math, reading, and not science for all your tests, including the past. So I have students who are seniors who their science was their low score. So literally they're going in and taking the test, and their super score is going to automatically jump a couple of points, even if they don't do better on the test.
That's big time.
That's, you know, like, they're like, should I take this? I'm like, yes, your super score is
absolutely. Yeah.
points. Yes, you should absolutely
pay the $50 or the 75 if you're
whatever it is. Yeah. And that is assuming your college, one of the colleges you're applying to cares about, looks at super scores. And, you know, and there's a list if you just search what schools, you know, consider ACT super score. But there is some other interesting stuff. So let me, like, this is like the same list, and this is on the ACT's website, right? This is straight from ACT, right?
Perfect.
There are just a couple more points to make, right? It says, right, these are all things, everything on the screen here is stuff we already talked about. The reading passages got a little shorter, just a little bit, which is interesting. And science and writing is optional. Of course, writing, just ignore writing. No one should take the writing test unless you're applying to a military academy. Those are the only places that care about writing anymore. Still take the science section, even though it's optional. This is another interesting thing, though. Paper and online are still offered. So you can go in and take the test on paper, which is what I would do because I like being able to draw on the math questions and, you know, use my pencil and stuff like that to, you know, draw on the figures and figure things out. But it's the same format, right? Back in June and July, if you took paper, you would get the old legacy test.
Right.
But there was something that said, oh, okay. It says over here on the right, no impact on predicting first-year college success. Now, a test that only has 50 questions or you know, 50 questions and 75 questions, the scoring scale is a little weirder. There's just fewer questions, right? So it does kind of change the scoring scale in a way where the test is a little less fine-tuned on the higher end of the scores. So it could be that now, you know, if you miss a couple of questions, you know, like if you miss 2 questions out of 75, that's different from missing 2 questions out of 50, right? So your score might be a little lower, but it is still compared to everyone else. So that's something to kind of be aware of. And they put out this test, like what they did is just release 4 tests where they took past existing tests and made practice tests by just deleting some questions out of them. And which is not how you should design a test. You should write a new test, right? So there's one other thing that they didn't mention on there that is very interesting, which is they have made the English test a whole lot easier than it was. The English test used to be, it had a bunch of questions where they just underlined some text and you had to pick the best answer, but it didn't ask any question. It's just like, pick which of these is the best thing, is just the instructions. But now all of those questions, they actually ask a question. So for instance, for many years, one of the things is when they gave you an underlined text question, like there were 8 different things that you had to consider. And one of them was that sometimes they were testing conciseness or redundancy and you had to pick the shortest answer, right? And so a lot of times we've talked about that, just like, well, when in doubt, you pick the shortest answer. Well, now on the new enhanced ACT, the question for that question type now has a question and it says, which choice best avoids redundancy? As in, which choice is not repetitive? And the answer is the shortest one.
Oh, right. Well, that
so
makes
as long as you know that redundancy means don't repeat yourself, the answer is the shortest one. So I don't understand how anyone's ever going to miss that question ever again.
Well, Bobby, that's why it helps to talk to somebody like you, because
that's what I'm saying. I mean, you do
a logical question.
Right. But I mean, like, but Yeah, I mean, you need to know the word redundancy, I guess, but like that, before there were 8 different things and you had to decide whether it was testing redundancy and look and see if it was repetitive. Now they're just telling you it. And also, it used to be, actually, it wasn't just pick the shortest answer. It was pick the shortest answer that didn't use weird casual language like nifty or super cool, right? And those questions now are separated out. And those questions say which answer best matches the essay's tone. And the rest of the essay is academic and professional. And so when they say best matches the tone, you just pick the one that is academic sounding and not having casual words like nifty or wicked sweet or whatever,
Right.
And so like those 2 questions, it's just so much easier now. Right. So anyway, overall, the new ACT is much more accessible and it's so much easier to prepare for now. Right. Because my students, I just say, take a practice test and then meet with me to review it. Well, now it takes 2 hours to take a test instead of 3.5.
Yeah.
Now,
that's a huge benefit. But Bobby, too, if people want to get in touch with you to have their student review the practice test with you, we've got your website online.
Yep.
Obviously, they can reach out to you by phone to set up an appointment.
Absolutely.
And guys, I would take advantage of this. Bobby, I always tell you this. What I appreciate about Bobby's coaching is you don't have to sit through classes and classes and classes and classes. He will look at your practice test, help your child with the issues that they're having, like pinpoint right in on, hey, if you focus on math, you can help increase your scores. If you focus on wherever their challenge is, that's where he's going to focus. So,
absolutely.
That's what I love, because me too, high activator. I want to get it done, get out, move on to the next thing. And that's what you do well. So
absolutely. And so that's the thing. And so, like also there's only one released practice test for this new ACT, and I'll be happy to share that with anybody. It's on the ACT's website. And then there are only 3 more, and they are only available through the ACT Redbook. And then now, but the thing is, those are the only 4 official practice tests. But since all they did is take old tests and delete 25 of these and delete 15 of those, like I can also provide you with old ACTs and just say, okay, well, here I deleted these 25 questions, deleted these 15. So you can. So also I can help provide practice tests, that you can take beyond just those few that are available. And so people can contact me. I'll provide a practice test and you can look at them. That's it.
Yeah.
So that is all. We'll continue talking about this in the future, but I think the ACT is a great choice and anyone can contact me online if they have more questions.
All righty. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Great.